People don't pull away because you're wrong. They step back because your presence reflects things they aren't ready to face. You enter a space and something shifts. The energy changes, not due to volume, not due to bravado, but because you're real. And in a world drenched in filters, noise, and facades, realness feels like pressure. You're not intense. You're not dramatic. You're just powerful, the kind of power that comes from doing the inner work, from building a peace that doesn't rattle under pressure. So when you arrive carrying that calm, you don't need to announce yourself. Your energy does the talking. That's the Stoic way, steady, unshaken, centered. The more grounded you become, the more visible the divide between who's truly ready to meet you and who isn't. If you resonate with this, even a little, do me one simple favor: subscribe. No pressure, just appreciation. Let's unpack why your energy shakes rooms, even when you're silent. Most people enter a room hoping someone will notice them. But you, the room notices you, even when you're not trying. It's not due to flash, clothes, or volume. It's the stillness you carry, the sense that you don't need anyone's approval. That alone throws off the rhythm most people are used to. They pause. Conversations stall when you walk in. Not from fear, but from something more subtle. A mix of curiosity, discomfort, and awareness. Because there's a weight to your presence. A kind of gravity that draws the eye without demanding it. This world tends to reward performance. Those who talk the loudest move the fastest. But your quiet confidence? That unsettles people. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." You've chosen stillness over reaction, presence over performance, and that breaks the script for those used to chasing validation. You may not have always been this way. Maybe there was a time when you explained yourself too much, over-delivered just to be seen. But now you know that true power isn't in performing. It's in mastering what's within. Carl Jung put it perfectly. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. And that awakening, that's what people feel when you walk in. Not intimidation. Awareness. You've stopped trying to ease everyone else's discomfort. That's not your job. When someone feels uneasy around you, it's rarely because you're too much. More often, it's because they're not used to being around someone so grounded, so clear. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Your presence invites people to examine themselves, and that's not always welcome. Humans are drawn to familiarity, even when that familiarity is chaos. When you show up calm, centered, unbothered, you create contrast. And contrast forces attention. Some lean in, others back away, but none ignore it. Here's what you've come to master, even if it wasn't intentional. Emotional control. You don't let the room shift you. You shape the space just by being in it. Aristotle believed that knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom. You've taken the time to do that. You know your values. You've learned when to speak and when to stay silent. You've realized not every battle is worth entering. Not every stage is meant for you. That's restraint. That's discipline. That's self-respect. And in today's world, that's rare. Others are expected to perform, overshare, and entertain. But you hold space. You observe. You speak only when it matters. That energy doesn't just walk into a room, it redefines it. You're living proof of what Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." You've embraced that freedom, letting go of the need to explain your presence or justify your silence. And in doing so, you've become a mirror. You reflect back to people the parts of themselves they've left unexplored. Not everyone can handle that, and that's okay. You weren't made to fit every room. You were made to elevate the ones aligned with your frequency. Stay grounded. Let your silence speak for you. Because the more you embody who you truly are, the less you'll feel the urge to prove it. Most people claim to want honesty until they hear it. Truth, even when spoken gently, can sting if it exposes something hidden. and you've likely seen this play out. You don't play pretend, and that unsettles those who've built identities around pretending. You don't do small talk just to kill time. You don't smile just to keep the peace. You speak from the gut, and when something's wrong, you name it. Not to cause trouble, but because you care enough not to lie. That kind of honesty is rare and misunderstood. Some call it cold, blunt, or even rude. But what they're really saying is, you made me feel something I wasn't ready to face. Plato once said, "No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth." And when you speak truth, not just in words, but in presence, it forces people to confront what they've been avoiding. In a world of surface-level talk, fake smiles, and filters, your authenticity stands out. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And that's why your honesty stings. It shines a light on everything others would rather keep buried. You've likely been that friend, the one who tells the truth, even when someone doesn't want to hear it. They didn't want insight, they wanted agreement. But you offered clarity. And that moment, that tension, that's what sets you apart. You're not a mirror that flatters. You're the kind that reflects clearly, without filters, without distortion. From a Stoic lens, honesty isn't just a virtue. It's a duty. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Because being real, especially when it's uncomfortable, might cost you popularity in the short term, but it earns you trust over time. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You need to be respected by the right ones. And that's the deeper reason why your presence hits so hard. Truth creates friction. And friction? That's where growth begins. Not everyone is ready for that. But those who are, they remember you. They reflect on your words when they're alone. They circle back, even if only in their minds. Aristotle said, "Courage is the first of human qualities because it makes all others possible." That includes the courage to be honest. To be the one in the room who doesn't just nod along. You've probably been called too much for your truth. But what they're actually saying is, you're not afraid to speak what I'm afraid to face. That's clarity. That's leadership. That's power. There's a kind of knowing you carry that doesn't come from what people say. It comes from what they avoid saying. You feel it. You sense it. Your mind tunes into signals others miss. Someone can walk in with a big smile, saying all the right things, but you see the tension in their shoulders, the hesitation in their eyes. Something's off, and you know it. That's not magic. That's emotional awareness. Intuition, sharpened through experience, reflection, and pain. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." You've made the unconscious visible, not only in yourself, but in others. You read beneath the surface. You recognize patterns. You feel their energy, their pain, their performance. And when people feel seen like that, it's vulnerable. Sometimes too vulnerable. Your presence strips away the layers they've spent years perfecting. And that can shake them, not because you did anything wrong, but because they can no longer keep pretending. So when your gut speaks, trust it. Don't rationalize it. That internal signal, it's been honed in stillness, solitude, and deep observation. The Stoics called this prohairesis, the ability to respond from reason, not reaction. That includes trusting your intuition, not as a hunch, but as a form of knowing. Some people light up a room with noise. You do it with presence. There's a natural pull to your energy, something people want to be near. They may not understand it. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. And often, they try to borrow a little of it, without realizing that what they're approaching is a mirror. Because being close to someone like you isn't just comforting, it's confronting. You're not performing. You're not following the social script. You're steady, grounded, awake. And for someone used to small talk and surface-level interaction, that can feel like standing next to a fire. Warm, yes, but also a little too revealing. Your presence doesn't judge people. It just reveals what's real. And in a world where authenticity is rare, that alone holds power. Plato once said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." And the way you hold yours? Quietly, intentionally. You're not trying to control anyone. You're not trying to convince. You're just being. But even that has weight, because when others are still unsure of who they are, your certainty makes them question their masks, their narratives, their comfort zones. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." When people are around you, they catch a glimpse of that clarity, and for some, it's deeply inspiring. For others, it's unsettling. It reminds them of everything they've been avoiding. So if someone gets close, then pulls away, don't take it personally. Your energy might be asking a question they aren't ready to answer. Not everyone is meant to stay, but the ones who do, those are the ones ready to rise with you. While many treat being alone like punishment, you treat it like a privilege. Where others rush to fill their silence with noise, you found power in the quiet. That doesn't make you antisocial. It makes you aware. You've discovered something most people haven't. Peace that doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. In a culture obsessed with constant connection, solitude is almost seen as suspicious. If you're not posting, performing, or surrounded by people, something must be wrong, right? But in your case, the opposite is true. When you're alone, you're not lonely, you're aligned. You can hear your thoughts, feel your emotions without distraction. Check in with yourself, no filters, no noise, no pressure. The Stoics believed in the power of solitude for this exact reason. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Solitude lets you see the difference. It's where the projections fall away, where the drama quiets, where you finally ask, what's real? What's mine? And what's just static from the world around me? Aristotle called contemplation the highest human activity, because when you're not reacting to the world, you get to shape how you respond to it. That space between stimulus and response is where your strength was forged. It's where your clarity sharpened like a blade. Carl Jung once observed, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." You felt that before. That ache, sitting in a room full of people and still feeling unseen. Because you crave depth, not just presence. And solitude is where depth begins. So if anyone ever made you feel strange for valuing your own company, ignore it. Don't shrink your silence to make someone else comfortable in their chaos. Your alone time isn't empty. It's sacred. It's where you've refined your thoughts, healed your wounds, and built a kind of inner peace that doesn't shatter when life gets loud. In that stillness, you found your sharpest clarity and your deepest power. Eventually, something clicks. You stop chasing. People love recognition. And when that moment arrives, a calm settles in. You stop bending to fit places you've outgrown. You stop justifying your worth to those who refuse to see it. You no longer knock on doors that were never meant to open. That's not bitterness. That's alignment. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not distant. You're discerning. And that difference matters. Because once you've done the inner work, once you've faced your shadows and held space for your own healing, your energy changes. It no longer reaches. It attracts. What's meant for you begins to flow toward you, not because you force it, but because you finally matched it. That's what the Stoics meant by self-sufficiency. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." That strength is the reason you don't need to chase anymore. Because when you know what you bring to the table, you're not afraid to sit alone. Some won't understand it. They'll mistake your peace for pride, your space for detachment. But really, you've just raised your standards. You're not desperate for connection. You're intentional with it. You've learned. Just because someone enters your life doesn't mean they're meant to stay. And just because something feels good in the moment doesn't mean it's aligned with your growth. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. And making peace with yourself, that's the habit that sets everything else in motion. That's what gives your energy its steadiness, its gravity. Not the noise, not the hustle, the stillness. So when the urge comes to chase, to explain, to prove, pause. If something is meant for you, it won't require you to abandon yourself. Stay rooted. Stay selective. Because the more aligned your energy becomes, the more naturally the right people and opportunities find their way to you. There's something about true calm that's louder than any noise. You don't have to say a word. Your energy speaks. It carries a quiet certainty, a presence that shakes people, not because you're doing anything to them, but because you're revealing something in them. Your peace has weight. It reminds people of what they've buried beneath distraction, noise, and performance. And when they stand beside you, it becomes clear, sometimes painfully so, that they haven't yet found that peace in themselves. Your stillness reveals their restlessness. Your groundedness shows them their avoidance. And your authenticity? It makes the mask they're wearing feel suffocating. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." So when someone pulls away, projects, or criticizes you, it's rarely about you. It's about the parts of themselves they're not yet willing to meet. You're not triggering them with judgment. You're simply holding up a mirror. And not everyone is ready to look into it. Stoic wisdom reminds us, don't take that personally. Epictetus taught, when someone irritates you, it is your own response that is to blame. You've embraced that. You've learned how to stay centered, even when misunderstood. Because someone else's trigger? That's their story, not yours. Socrates believed that self-awareness is the foundation of wisdom. And by simply being you, calm, real, rooted, you invite others to become more aware of themselves. That's a gift, even if it doesn't always feel like one. Not everyone wants to grow. Not everyone wants to face what your energy exposes. You don't need to broadcast your boundaries. People feel them. It's in the way you carry yourself, in your tone, in your restraint. You don't overextend. You don't overexplain. You just exist with clarity, and that sends a message. This is someone who respects themselves. And when you respect yourself, people either rise to meet it or quietly exit. Either way, it works in your favor. You're not aggressive. You're not closed off. You're simply clear. And clarity, in a world full of blurred lines and mixed signals, is deeply intimidating. Most people are used to bending, apologizing, and shrinking to accommodate others. But you've done the work to know where you end, and where someone else begins. That's called self-possession. And it's magnetic. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, aligning your actions with your values. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And that's exactly what you're doing. Your boundaries aren't for keeping people out. They're for keeping your energy clear. They're not walls. They're filters. They don't scream, "Stay away." They whisper, "If you're not aligned, you won't stay." That's how you protect your peace. It's how you create a space free from chaos, disrespect, and emotional freeloading. Carl Jung believed, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And part of that privilege? Learning what you will and will not accept. Your boundaries aren't selfish. They're self-honoring. They're the quiet architecture of a strong life. So keep them firm. Let them do their job. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. The right people will feel them and respect them. The rest? They'll fall away. And that's not a loss. That's alignment in action. There's a quiet kind of leadership that doesn't come from shouting or proving. It comes from being. You're not trying to change anyone. You're not begging them to rise. You're just living in alignment, and that alone shakes people up. They watch how you carry yourself, how you stay calm under pressure, And it gets to them, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you already have. Your growth is visible. Your discipline is felt. And that kind of consistency, it doesn't go unnoticed. Some will admire it because it reflects who they want to become. Others will resist it because it confronts the parts of themselves they've ignored. But either way, your energy creates a ripple. Aristotle said it best. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And what you've built, that's excellence in motion. If this message hits something deep, it's because part of you already lives it. Keep walking in that truth. Let your presence speak louder than noise. And if this resonated, show some love. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay grounded with us. Your energy is rare. Protect it. I'll see you in the next one.